The bronze gate slams shut. It is not an escape, it is a trap. In the dusty streets of Roman Ostia, perhaps 85 AD, the fugitiva is cornered. The brutal punishments for women who escaped Roman slavery are now her only future. The slave catcher, the lorarius, drags her from the shadows. She is property that tried to steal itself. But capture is not the end. It is the preparation. The crowd watches as the tools are brought, not chains, but the stigma, the brand. A small iron, glowing dull red, bearing the letter F for fugitive. This mark ensures she can never blend in again. Why did she run, knowing this was the price? And what fate awaited those who were marked not for return, but for slow obliteration? The hot metal hissed, a sound that sealed her fate. If you enjoy these dark histories, leave a like and subscribe and comment below where you're listening from. And now, back to the story. The noise of the Subura alley fades. The public spectacle of her capture is over. Now, the private cold machinery of Roman power begins. She has not marched through the forum, a trophy of the state. She has taken the back way, through service tunnels beneath the massive insulae, the towering apartment blocks. The air is thick with the smell of awful, spoiled wine, urine, and the damp rot of the city's foundations. The only sound is the scrape of her worn sandals on gritty stone and the heavy, indifferent tread of the lorarius behind her. She is pushed through a low doorway into a holding cell. This is not a prison, not yet. It is a storeroom for reclaimed assets, lightless save for a single smoking torch in a wall sconce. Here, she is no longer Lyra, or whatever name she gave herself in freedom. A bored administrator, sitting at a rough wooden table, does not look at her face. He only asks the lorarius for the capture details, dipping a stylus into a wax tablet. Her name is erased. She is a number, an entry, a piece of inventory. Her clothes are stripped, replaced by a tunic of the cheapest Rugmhest flax, smelling of mildew and sweat. Then, the first punishment is made permanent. The collare. It is heavier than she imagined. The iron is cold, pinching the skin of her neck as the hinge is closed. A hammer strikes a rivet, sealing it shut. The sound echoes jarringly in the small stone room. It is a permanent fixture, a constant dull pressure. From it often dangled a bronze tag, the inscription clear, Tene me nefugiam et revoca me ad dominum meum. Hold me, lest I flee, and return me to my master. She is a walking message, a breathing warning. She has been redefined by a few ounces of metal. In the cell's shadows, there are others. No one speaks. The air is thick with the silence of lost hope. But one woman, older, her face an impassive mask, shuffles closer in the gloom. Without meeting her eyes, the older woman silently pushes a small, impossibly hard piece of bread toward the new arrival's hand. It is not rebellion. It is a quiet acknowledgement of shared humanity, a refusal to be entirely erased by the iron. But was this collar the true definition of her failure? This gesture, this piece of bread, was the only mercy she would find in that place. Because, for some, a worse fate awaited. The administrator scans his tablet. Her master is wealthy, powerful. He does not want the collare. He does not want the sound of a rattling chain or a metal ring scraping in his halls. He has requested the alternative, the mercy with the hidden price. The administrator nods to the guard. He indicates the second punishment, reserved for those who had deeply offended or those whose masters wanted an indelible, silent mark. The brand, the stigma. The letter F for fugitivis, burned into the flesh. Records from the period, like those from the poet Martial, confirm the practice. It was usually the forehead, where it could never be hidden by hair or a veil. This was the final judgment. It declared her defective. She is led from the cell toward a different room where a small brazier glows, the irons resting in the coals. The collar marked her as property. The brand marked her as damaged property. She is brought back to the domus, the master's sprawling urban villa. The brand on her forehead is new, a raw red F hidden by a paste of soot and herbs, but it is felt. The other slaves steal glances, then look away. They are afraid. Contagion. This is the trial, not in a court but in the cold, tiled atrium of the household. The Dominus does not shout. He sits, calm, flanked by his administrator. He gestures to her. The administrator states the condition. "You are res fugitiva," the administrator reads from his tablet, his voice monotone. "Damaged property. You have cost your master the lorarius fee, the cost of the brand, and 3 weeks of lost labor." The master raises a hand. "Why?" he asks. His voice is soft, almost reasonable. This is the soft pressure, the illusion of a conversation. "Tell me who helped you. Tell me where you hid." He leans forward, offering the lie of clemency. "Be useful, and your service will be adjusted. Remain silent, and you will be sent to the mills." The pistrinum. The mill. The word hangs in the air, heavier than any iron collare. The mill was a known fate, a living death sentence. The fugitiva looks at the polished marble floor. She says nothing. "Speak," the administrator demands. She lifts her head, the mark on her skin stark. Her voice is dry, cracked. "I have nothing to say." The master's face does not change. He simply nods. The mills. The price of her few weeks of freedom is paid. The why she ran, for air, for a moment where her body was her own, is answered by the totality of her punishment. She ran from this, and in doing so, guaranteed a worse version of it. She is taken that afternoon, not in chains, but under a heavy guard. The pistrinum is a squat, windowless building of dark tufa stone. The air hits her first, a wall of heat, sweat, and the suffocating, cloying smell of raw flour, and the noise, a constant, deafening, rhythmic groan. Inside, massive hourglass-shaped stones, the catillus, grind against the fixed cone, the meta. They are turned by weary donkeys, blindfolded, walking in endless circles, and beside them, turning the smaller hand mills, are the women. She is shoved into line. An overseer throws a harness of rough leather over her shoulders, attaching it to the heavy wooden lever of a hand quern. "Push!" This is the new escalation. Deprivation. The labor is crushing, designed to annihilate the body and the mind. The fine flour dust fills her lungs, coats her skin, turning sweat to a white, gritty paste. Her world shrinks to the stone, the grain, the ache in her shoulders, and the crack of the overseer's whip. But the stone was meant to grind more than just grain. The master's trial was not about her guilt. It was about his power. The mill was built to break the human will, to reduce a person to a function, an extension of the blindfolded donkey. But the Romans misunderstood. They intended the brand as shame, the mill as oblivion. They became her armor. She had nothing left to lose. The brand on her forehead meant she could never again pretend to be anything but the lowest. The silence of the other women, their shared, rhythmic, exhausted movement, became a dark vow. The monotonous, crushing labor meant to empty her mind, instead focused it. Push, turn, breathe, survive. Her silence, which the master mistook for stupidity, was defiance. Her discipline, learned in the mill, was an inversion of their power. The state meant to erase her. Instead, it forged her into something hard and silent. But there was one punishment that surpassed even the mill. One day the overseer stops her. She is too strong, too unbroken. The administrator from the domus is there, with 2 soldiers. She has been sold. When the mill failed to break a fugitiva, or when the master simply wanted his final, fatal profit, there was the mines. Ad Metalla, a death sentence served daily. She is being sent to the darkness, where no grain grew and no light touched. The flour dust was white. The mineral ore was black. The journey to the mines is an erasure in itself. A long march in chains, or weeks spent in the dark, airless, bilge-fouled hold of a transport ship. When the fugitiva disembarks, perhaps in the rocky, wind-scoured coast of Hispania, she is no longer a person. She is mancipium, a thing to be expended. She is lowered into the earth. The world of sunlight, of flour dust, of the domus, is gone. This is the mines. Ad Metalla. The rebirth is an inversion. She is born again into darkness. The mine is a maze of cold, dripping stone, navigated by the pinprick light of tiny, smoking oil lamps. The air is foul, thick with metallic dust and the smell of human waste. She is given a hammer, a basket, and a chisel. Often, she is chained to the rock face. Her brand, the F, is invisible here. In the deep galleries, everyone is marked by the same uniform pallor, the same hacking cough, the same hollow eyes. They are the damnati, the condemned. The state does not care if they live. It only cares that they dig before they die. One day, deep in a new narrow tunnel, her lamp flickers. She rests her head against the cold stone, her arms shaking from the effort of the hammer. In the weak, oily light, she sees it. A carving, scratched into the rock face with a sharp stone. It is not a letter. It is not a name. It is a crude, small circle, a sun. This mark was not made for an overseer. It was a message. She runs a dusty, broken-nailed finger over it. This is a wordless rite. A woman before her, now certainly dead, had stood in this exact spot, in this same darkness, and remembered the sky. She takes her chisel and, in a moment of stolen defiance, scratches a small, straight line next to it. A simple, silent, "I am here too." This is the hidden truth. Historians find the official records, the wax tablets, the administrators' lists, that quantify the fugitiva as assets lost and reclaimed. But archaeological records are more cautious. Excavations in Roman mines, like those at Vipasca in modern Portugal, unearth tools, yes. But they also find the detritus of desperate life, a worn-down leather sandal, a gaming piece carved from bone, a lamp bearing a simple, personal mark. The real evidence is not in the master's inventory. It is in the scratch on the wall. What was hidden was not a plan of escape. It was the proof of their resistance. The state intended the mine to be an erasure, a place to dispose of broken tools. But the sun carving reveals an unbroken human will. But even this dark world had a lower depth. There was one final spectacular punishment, reserved for the fugitiva who struck a guard, who refused to dig, or who simply served as a final, terrible example to the others. The arena. Damnatio ad Bestias. Condemnation to the beasts. A sentence that turned the state's cold, industrial erasure into a hot, screaming public spectacle. They had been marked as animals by the brand. Now, they would be killed by them. In the administrator's domus, a stylus moves across a wax tablet. The entry for the fugitiva is closed. F. Ad Metalla, or perhaps F. Damnatio. The distinction for him is purely financial. Her name, lira or otherwise, is not recorded. She is a debit, now settled. In the official archives, the ink dries on a papyrus roll. She is a number. We search the vast cold ledgers of the Roman state, but the names of the branded women are not there. They were property, and property does not have a history. It only has a bill of sale. The ink is withheld. The names are burned from the record by their omission. We only know of them through the periphery. The poet Martial writes, almost casually, of the branded brow of a slave. Seneca the Younger discusses the collare as a mundane fact of life, a tool. These distant educated voices are not witnesses for her. They are witnesses to her condition. They saw the mark, the iron, the limp from the mill. They saw it as part of the landscape, as natural as the stone of the forum. Their whispers confirm the policy, but never preserve the person. The brand, the collar, the mill, the mine, the arena. These were the brutal punishments, but the true, final punishment, the one that bound all the others together, was erasure. The collare was designed to strip her name, the brand, her identity, the mill, her mind, the mine, her body, the arena, her life, and the administrator's ledger, her memory. The goal was not just to reclaim her body, but to annihilate the fact she had ever existed as anything more than a tool that broke and was discarded. The iron scraping against cold cobblestone, it fades. It is replaced by the scratch of the stylus on wax, closing the file. It is the silence of a mine gallery after the lamps go out. It is the dust settling on an empty arena floor. Centuries later, an iron ring is found in the dirt, its inscription worn smooth, its hinge rusted shut. The brand is only bone and ash. The cold remains. Subscribe, hit the bell, and like. What is left when the stone and iron outlast the name?